Aloha, fellow Hawaii National Guard Association members. As a former president of the Guard Association and a current member of the Hawaii Army National Guard, I am proud to be part of the Hawaii Guard Ohana. As you know, the National Guard mission has grown from a primarily domestic one to one similar to those of the active components. Throughout my service, I have seen Guard units perform the same tasks as active units. Never could you tell a difference in professionalism or executing the mission. However, there have been those recently who have tried to take funding away from the Guard and diminish its role among our military. I'm pretty sure all of you know that would be a mistake, especially during a time of such political and social unrest. In a fair discussion about the cost savings, the National Guard is the most cost-effective component of the Army and the Air Force, and it must remain a balanced component of America's total force. In fact, if anything, the Guard should see an increased role in our country's national defense. And others agree. In January, the Commission on the Future of the Army released its report to the President and to Congress. The panel was tasked with reviewing the current force structure and making recommendations on the future requirements for the Army. I want to thank the Commission for the countless hours they spent talking to members of Congress, members of the National Guard, Army officials, the defense industry, and citizen communities as a whole. Through all that work, they also came to the conclusion that the Guard is an important part of our country's defense and national security. One of the report's recommendations keeps a number of Apache aircraft in the National Guard, which is an initiative I undertook with Republican Congressman Joe Wilson from South Carolina. I also signed several bipartisan letters and testified to the Commission about the need to keep this aircraft active in the Guard. The report also recommends further integration of the National Guard with the active duty component. These recommendations will now be considered by Congress ahead of deliberations of this year's NDAA. Congress can now work to implement recommendations as it sees fit. But we can improve some of the recommendations. We must not lose sight of our priority that the National Guard must remain integrated in America's total force. In the year ahead, the Guard will face new challenges in maintaining readiness as it combats dangers at home and abroad. In the President's budget this year, an increase in $19 billion will be put forward for the Cybersecurity National Action Plan. The U.S. Cyber Command has already turned to the Guard for help in developing an operational cyber force. This is a mission where our National Guardsmen should see an increased role, and we will work to do it this year. As we work to combat the spread of diseases like Zika and dengue fever in our home state of Hawaii, governors are going to call on the Guard to help them with medical initiatives. I'm particularly proud of the work we did in Congress to expand the State Partnership Program and increase funding for NGRIA last year, which we will work once again for this year as we begin to consider the NDAA in April. Recently, Republican Congressman Don Young from Alaska and I introduced a bill that would increase Rural Guard training reimbursement. I believe that no one should be penalized or have to pay out of their own pocket to serve their country, and this bill will address this. We also continue our consideration of the Military Compensation and Retirement Commission's recommendations for modernizing personnel benefits and retirement. We will work again to award veteran status to Title 32 National Guard soldiers and airmen who retire after 20 years of service. We can fine-tune the recommendations for blended retirement and military health care to ensure that Guardsmen have both choice and access to the programs they need or want. As a former 20-year member of the Hawaii State House, I was a fearless advocate for the Hawaii Guard. While I'm in Congress, I can assure you that I will continue to be an advocate for everyone in the National Guard, especially the Hawaii Guard. There are a few issues that divide us in Congress, but for my colleagues in DC and me, the need for a robust national defense is not one of them. I thank you for your service to our beloved Hawaii and our great nation. I will continue to appreciate your support of HNGA and NAUGUS. Together, we can ensure that the Guard remains strong for decades to come. Mahalo.